All right, you know, music life for me is all about Kamloops. It's all about our history of music, and Kamloops has something that's really special. We have a symphony orchestra here, the Kamloops Symphony Orchestra. It was founded in 1978.
76.
76. That's the same age as I am, actually. So yeah, so it was in celebration of my birth year. Was the this Kamloops Symphony Orchestra, and I'm really glad to have. Well, first of all, Cvetozar started off the show playing and did a masterful job on the violin. But I'm also very excited to have Daniel Mills, who's the executive director of the symphony, here with me today. How are you doing, Daniel?
Not bad. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
You can't have music life here in Kamloops without talking about the symphony. You guys have done so many different things. As a sound engineer with our audiovisual company and our music store, we work together quite a bit throughout town and that kind of thing. When did you come to town?
So I started this position in June 2019, so I'm coming up almost on 2 years now.
2 years,
so I had
okay.
9 months pre-pandemic, if you put it that way, and here we are.
And where did you move from? Were you in Kamloops?
From Calgary originally.
From
so,
Calgary,
yeah,
okay.
Born and raised there, moved a few times out east, but first time in BC, and or living here, I should say.
Yeah, and how do you like it?
It's been great. The community's been so welcoming. I love the geography. You know, especially in the last year, I've really gotten to appreciate, you know, the beauty that we have here in Kamloops, and it's been great. So.
You drive through it to go to Vancouver from Calgary, and it's kind of almost a blink. You see the Valley View restaurants, you know you're in Kamloops. You see the hills, you know you're in Kamloops. You get up out of the hills, you get into towards Merritt, and you're like, oh, that was Kamloops. But living here, you realize that we actually have some amazing amenities in our trails. As Cvetozar was saying, lakes. You know, our fishing, everything is just fantastic. You guys do, or you have done, maybe you've done it, music in the mountains up at Sun Peaks.
Yes, that was a project we used to pursue, of course, and it's actually something we're hoping to bring back eventually, or something similar, particularly now as we're talking about, you know, revising our plans and how we put on concerts in our current circumstances. So looking at outdoor events is something we're hoping to come back to. Of course, the weather is always a risk for those things, but hopefully in Kamloops, I mean, we are probably one of the most fortunate places to have outdoor concerts. We don't have to worry about rain, probably the least.
Well, we're in a
likely.
rain shadow, or sun belt, they say. But you know, music in the park we've done for 20 some odd years, and some of the most magical nights of music in the park were torrential downpours. And I remember this one night in particular where the band just said, to our horror, hey, everybody, just come on up onto the stage. So we basically turned off the front end speakers and I just played in a jam. It was like an East Coast kitchen party kind of a thing. And everybody crowded around there. And you know, you're worried about your microphones, you're worried about all of your gear and everything like that. But it was like fantastic. And it was pouring. And you know, to me, sometimes those are magic nights. I can imagine with a violin or something like, you don't really want to get them that wet.
Yeah, unfortunately, string instruments are very fragile when it comes to water, so that is a concern.
We did something with you guys a few years ago too. I think we supplied a projector, and you did two Charlie Chaplin movies. Does that make sense?
That does sound familiar. Again, before my time, but we've definitely like combining other forms of art with music and symphony because it's more engaging and it just shows how different kinds of art can inspire each other and, you know, be linked together.
Right. I would love, and this might be really cliche, but I think it would be really amazing at the far end, east end of Riverside Park, to have the symphony set up in that open meadow area, under the stars, playing Star Wars.
That would be fun. Definitely a plan.
It might be a little cliche, but I also want to talk to you about something that you did this year, which was amazing. You raised a whack of money. How much money did you raise?
Just under $25,000.
Which is amazing. And you did that by basically mapping out, by running every street in the city.
Yes, that's correct.
Where did this idea come from?
Well, outside of my day job as the executive director, which of course involves lots of different pieces, I'm also a recreational runner, and so and like so many events that have been canceled, I was looking for my own goal and something that would motivate me to keep running. At the same time, of course, the symphony going into our current situation where we are having to go digital with all their programming and not able to have real audiences for the vast majority of the time, we knew that there'll be a lot of financial strain on the organization here. So we were looking for a new fundraising initiative anyway, and so this came to me as an idea that would hopefully satisfy both my personal motivational drive that I would need, but also something that would be beneficial to the symphony and show that the symphony is really for everyone in Kamloops, and by covering every street in Kamloops. So that's basically where the idea came. I pitched it to our board. Everyone seemed excited, and then basically in August I started.
You combined two passions.
Yeah.
Right? Which is amazing. So $25,000. That's a decent amount of money, and I'm sure it helped with the. Obviously, that all went to the symphony.
Yeah.
Right.
So all went to putting on concerts, and as we progressed through our digital programming, and basically directly going to offset those costs there.
Yeah. Congratulations on it. I remember seeing that in the news, thinking, that's pretty cool. So another thing that the symphony does to help offset costs and stuff, and to especially now that you're not doing a lot of live events with ticket sales, you have a lesson school.
Yes, so we are very proud to operate a music school in the community. And as you saw, Cvetozar is one of our teachers. We have 11 faculty members there and teach over 200 students. So variety of ages, everyone from 3 to I think about 83 is usually where we say. So it isn't just for children by any means. And thankfully, even in the pandemic, we've been able to continue operating in a combination of virtual and in-person lessons with, of course, safety protocols in place. So
absolutely. And now you're in the old train station, right?
We're just across from the train station, so
just
same
across.
same
courtyard.
Complex,
Courtyard. Yeah. Our guitar factory used to be right beside you there, and we'd come over there and hang out a lot in that courtyard. It's quite nice. So I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about this. Sounds in the Sand. This is your newest show that you have coming on. And do you want to explain a little bit about what that's about?
So as mentioned previously, we've gone digital with our programming with the inability to have live audiences, but it's in that process, some of the pros is we've been able to incorporate various artists in our project that we might not otherwise have access to. And so this is one of the examples. So we've actually filmed and recorded the orchestra performing and sent our audio to 2 sand artists who live in Russia, and then they recorded themselves creating sand art in sync with our own recorded performances, sent that back to us. We then stitched it together digitally to release it. So it really is a multidisciplinary production involving different people on different continents, which is something we wouldn't necessarily have to be able to do previously.
It's amazing. Technology has allowed us to do that.
Yeah, and so very well-known piece of music. Mussorgsky's Pictures in an Exhibition is the main piece in the program, and that itself depicts someone walking through an art gallery and looking at different paintings. So basically we've taken the sand artist took the ideas for those paintings and recreated them in sand along to our performance of the piece.
What's really interesting is I saw this ad, and for some reason, my mind immediately was all about painted brush strokes. And then I saw a clip on your website about actually how they do it, and it's amazing. They use a light box with sand on the top. They can erase it all and create things. And I'm looking forward to seeing the whole show. When is it available? How do we get to see it?
So it'll be available until April 11th. Basically, tickets are available through our website, and it's online there. So through the Kamloops Live box office, all the tickets are available there, and you basically get a link and watch the show. And the glory of this method is that you can watch it as many times as you want, however you want. You don't have to show up. So as long as it's within that window of time, it's accessible to you. So that's one of the advantages. And if you miss this one, we will be having 2 more projects that will be launched shortly. The next one after this actually involves, we're going to the jazz realm, and we'll be covering tunes from Charlie Parker with strings, his infamous albums, or not infamous, but back from the 50s, and basically recreating those with orchestra and jazz quartet from Vancouver. So.
Awesome. Well, you guys do such an amazing job. And I always know that when the Kamloops Symphony Orchestra is going to be doing something, it's always at that top level. So years ago, the old, I can't say that, Bruce Dunn, who was the conductor, we worked together for the Wild Lights Symphony of Lights, and we took a Beethoven piece and programmed all the lights.
Oh, wow.
And for the opening show, he sat there and conducted all these lights. So you guys are very serious, but also a very fun organization as well. And you have a new conductor.
Yes, so our music director, Dina Gilbert, is in her 4th season now with us, and I should say Bruce is still around. He still teaches at the music school, so we see him all the time. But yeah, Dina Gilbert is our new music director. So both her and I are kind of the new generation of leaders, I guess, of the organization, and but really we're so grateful for everything that was that Bruce and Kathy, my predecessor, had done before us to make it the orchestra what it is today.
So moving forward, what we're going to come out of this pandemic. We're going to have some live concerts again, and I know that people are going to be really connected to music in a way that we've never seen. Our generations have never seen, and I really feel that it's going to be a big boom year for music. What do you have planned, or what are you thinking about? What's your dreams, hopes?
Well, we definitely are still, proceeding with caution as we figure out how things are going to open up. We definitely think that after this year of experimentation that we've had with our digital programming, we hope that, and I believe that we'll be able to combine some of those novel ideas that we've been able to experiment with and combine it with the live experience to create something really strong.
Yes.
I think this period's really given us the opportunity and almost the excuse to try these things that we might not otherwise. As many people know, classical music can seem very, conservative and traditional, and in this time period, we've really been able to kind of push the envelope on what is normally expected out of us. And so I'm hopeful that those ideas will, kind of gel together in a new normal, as they like to say.
Right.
Yeah. So, of course, we had a lot of program pieces and shows planned this season that we couldn't do originally once we had to change our season up. And so we'll probably revisit some of those, but I think we're also going to make them better than what we had originally planned. So definitely stay tuned.
I think that's really exciting. I know with our audiovisual company, we have kind of pivoted, using that word, new normal, pivot, all those kind of words. But we've changed a lot. We do a lot more video production, and I've been really enjoying the creative aspect of creating a show. Usually we show up and we just make things lighter, brighter, and louder. But now we're able to actually tell a bit more of a story. So I can see where that's going to be really impactful for your shows coming up.
Yeah, and then, example of having our artists from Russia be a part of the show without having to bring them in. Similarly, we've this year been able to feature the works of a lot of Canadian living composers, but they don't necessarily have to be in Kamloops to still share their thoughts about the pieces and be part of the final product. And so I think even if it is a live format, potentially, still having those video segments as part of the concert to have those people share in their own words what the pieces are will be something that we continue to do.
Be amazing, really. Yeah, I one of the pandemic purchases I made was a gigantic 35 foot by 16 or 18 foot high video screen for outdoor concerts. So maybe we could do my Star Wars idea.
Yes, that's a great idea.
There or something. I don't know. We'd love, I'm sure, to come on as a sponsor and do something really cool with you guys. I really appreciate you taking the time out to come and visit us this morning and bringing Cvetozar, who's amazing. If people want to sign up for music lessons, where would they go?
Just feel free to give us a call. We have a website, KamloopsSymphony.com, also KamloopsSymphonyMusicSchool.com. We'll have the phone number to reach, and we'll happily set you up and see what's available. So again, instruments of all kinds, all ages, various flexibility, and particularly now as we reach the end of this year, if you're thinking about it in the fall, is a great time to start asking those questions. So
absolutely, and it's a boom year for music instruments and for people playing. I know our lesson school, we've seen a big bump, and I think it's just going to be 2022 is going to be the year of music. I know it for sure.
Excellent.
So I appreciate you coming out, and I really look forward to hanging out with you at some shows.
Yes, thanks so much for having me on the show.
Yeah. Up next, we're going to talk about crazy happy mistakes. Check it out. So this week's instrument of interest is something that I've had for a very, very long time, and it's in this case. This is probably one of the oldest cases that I own. It's a really special instrument. It's a guitar, I'll give you that much. When you open it up, you know it's from the 70s. I'm pretty sure we had that in our kitchen when I was growing up. But this particular guitar is such a cool little piece. just going to put it down here. It is a very early guitar. You can tell the body shape, the figure 8 shape that it is. It's had a new bridge on it. It's got these cracks. If this could tell a story, I'd listen. You know, it's one of those really cool pieces. It's got a couple marks inside. It says 1914. I believe it's a Martin. And I can also see some of the markings up in here that have worn away. It's not in the best of shape. It's got a couple cracks in it. It's got a herringbone inlay in the back here. But it's a very cool little piece. And I'm just going to sit down here, and if I just, I've got it tuned down to D because I don't want to put too much tension on it. But I think about its age, and I think about how many people have played it and what its story is, and it inspires me. And then I start thinking about the shape of the guitar. So this week's story is all about guitar shapes and thinking about how they came to be. Why did we have this shape? Like, this is almost a number 8 shape kind of a guitar. So because of that, I started thinking about our shapes of our guitars that we make and sort of what goes into them. It's a lot of work when you go to build a guitar. For example, you need to have, this is one of our molds, you need to have an outer mold and you have to have an inner mold. So when you go to actually build the guitar, you have the opposite of this that you bend the sides in. You bend the sides, then you put it straight into one of these molds which holds it in place. Ours are reinforced with steel, so they're very, very strong, very stiff. And the guitar body essentially lives in this mold as you go. And it's very, very precise. All of these pieces all in here is the actual end size of the guitar. So I was thinking, it's a lot of work to make one of these, so what goes into deciding what its final shape is? So what I thought I would do is just go through some different shapes. So this is one of the earliest shapes. It would be called like a parlor guitar shape or a Baroque shape kind of a thing. And from there, we've got influences from there. I'm going to just grab a guitar. This is one of our new guitars, just coming out. This is going to be its debut, first time seen, but it is a parlor style. And one of the things that we did on this guitar was we made it have a 12 fret joint, kind of like the older guitars had. And there's a couple advantages to this. One is the scale length, which is the length of the strings, is shorter, so you've got less tension on it. So it's really comfortable to play. The neck is inset more into the body, so you're not having to reach as far. And it's just a really comfortable scale length and feeling guitar. And the shape of the body is narrower in here. It's narrower here, so it's just a really comfortable guitar to sit down and play with. So this is our take on that old instrument that I showed you, which was originally designed and built by Stauffer in Vienna, and then Martin took it over. And I'll show you a next body shape here. This is a dreadnought body shape. And the dreadnought body shape is characterized by the width across here, the waist, and also the shoulders. And this particular one's got a Florentine cutaway. So this was a design that I did because I really loved actually a Larrivee guitar design that had this really sharp cutaway. And this is my take on that design, but it gives you really great access up to the high frets. And you can also see that it's a 14th fret joint. So then now if you're playing like I do a lot of chording in the 12th position, doing that kind of stuff, you can do it quite easily because there's very little heel, especially on our guitars, very little heel, but also your hand can get right up in here and you can play all those notes that would normally be covered up by the rest of the body. This has got a longer scale length. And one of the things that's really interesting with this design, a 14th fret design, is that the neck and the bridge is more out of the guitar. So your natural strumming position on the guitar is this far away from the bridge. So you get this really kind of bright sound compared to if you move your hand further up. It's a lot rounder, more woody sounding. Now the Dreadnought is a name that Martin came up with. And a very, very good friend of mine who passed away last year, David Magana, was the vice president of Martin. And he told me a story about why it was called the Dreadnought. And it all had to do with some, and I'm getting this third party, so I'm going to do my very best to get all the details right. But it was a bunch of bluegrass musicians that came up from Kentucky to Pennsylvania and talked to Frank Martin Sr., I believe it was, about doing a new body shape, because all the body shapes were small like the one behind me, and it wasn't having enough projection, enough volume, and enough sound. In past episodes, we've talked about the guitars changing their physical construction by going to a cone and a resonator to get that kind of volume. But the other way you could get more volume and projection was by having a larger soundboard. You get more bass by having a deeper guitar. So all of a sudden, the deeper body, the larger soundboard, you had louder, more bass. And this became what Frank Martin Sr. called the Dreadnought, because it reminded him of Dreadnought, and he wasn't a big fan of the shape. He liked the more romantic era, that 8 kind of shape of a guitar. But the Dreadnought was born. So that's that shape, and this is our take on a Dreadnought. Then things got a little crazy. Companies came out with the jumbo guitar. And this is a jumbo. It's very much wider across here. It's deeper, it's thicker, and it's... This one, we don't produce a jumbo with our guitar company, but this one's made by Gibson. It's a very famous guitar, a J200, and it's meant for big, voluminous tone. But they're kind of uncomfortable to play. And they came up with a new style of guitar called a grand auditorium or a triple O. And the whole thought was, with new pickups, new ways of performing, we don't need to have acoustically as much output or size. You can imagine the mariachi bands in Mexico have really big guitars, which are pretty awesome. But the new style was something that was kind of a hybrid between a jumbo and the parlor guitar, and I'll show you one of those. This would be considered a very modern day size and style of guitar. This is our take on it. It's a grand auditorium, so the width in here isn't quite as big as a Dreadnought. It's narrower in here, and it's also quite thin, so it's very, very comfortable. We've done a couple things that are kind of nice to the guitar. We've added some very boutique features like rib rest bevel, armrest bevel. It's a 14th fret joint on this guitar as well. It's nice and loud, but it's also very balanced, all the notes. So it's kind of considered like the modern day performance guitar. So one of my favorite places to hang out and be with guitars is around Shuswap Lake, which if you don't know Shuswap Lake, it's a H-shaped lake not too far from Kamloops here. It's about an hour and a half away, and it's surrounded by the most amazing forests. You can have cedar forest in parts of it. You can have spruce forest in other parts, and it's just a very quiet lake. You can go in there, and I love playing to the trees. If you look on my Facebook pages, you'll see there's all sorts of me, one with nature, and my guitar pictures, because that's one of my favorite places to be. My dad and I were out around a campfire one night playing guitar. And the problem with the campfire playing guitar is that you're tight together because you want to have a lot of people around this campfire. And if you have a guitar like this where the neck sticks out, you know, a few inches makes a huge difference. The body makes a difference if you're sitting, especially with a lot of camping chairs that have arms and that kind of a thing. So my dad sat there and he said, you know what would be amazing? we should make a strummer guitar. And I thought, a strummer guitar? Okay, so we started talking about it. The strummer guitar would be shorter in scale length and not as long, so it'd be a 12 fret joint. And the body would be a compact body, but we'd make it like a jumbo and try to get as much volume on tone out of it. And let me show you that, because it just came in and I'm really excited about it. That was a big reveal. This is our new strummer guitar. It's you can see it's quite wide in here. It's squat. It's a 12 fret joint. The neck's not super long. But what I love about this guitar is it doesn't take up much more than your personal space. But your natural position of your hand is right over that sweet spot. And I thought, that's amazing. So that's what we designed. My dad really was the designer of this guitar. And I think it's going to be a new revolution. And so when you're building guitars and you're designing guitars, these are the thoughts that are going through your head. How are you going to use them? How are you going to play them? Whether it's around a campfire or, for example, a good friend of mine, Don Alder, who's an amazing fingerstyle player that hits his guitar and bangs it all around, that kind of a thing. We just designed a new guitar that I think is going to be cutting edge on that. Let me grab that one for you too. This is our new unnamed performer guitar with our new preamp system. We designed this preamp here in Kamloops. It's built in the Okanagan for us, and it's quite different than everything else that's out there. And this is a guitar that's designed for that modern player. Very sharp cutaway, 12 fret joint, really easy to get your hands up here. Of course, you have that adjustment that we're famous for adjusting the neck angle. But the other thing that we've done that's really kind of interesting is that we have a patent pending on this little black disc in here. And what it is I call it the slap pickup. Now, if you followed me for a long time, you know I've been working on this slap pickup for since 2014, 7 years. Yeah, sometimes these things take a little bit of time. The slap pickup is basically a tactile transducer. So when you're hitting the guitar, you can get that low end thunk like a kick drum, and the huge amount of dynamic range that you can get from a kick drum. And then what we did is we have basically volume, bass, and treble for the bridge pickup. You can click in these little switches in here, which puts on the microphone for when you're slapping your guitar around. There's another switch to get rid of the bass thump from the saddle. But as you turn up the slap knob, that turns on the slap pickup, and that gives you the ability to get that kick drum-like sound without it coloring the sound of your guitar. And this gives the fingerstyle musician that's doing all those tactile kind of performances a new tool. And I wonder if the guy that designed this guitar was thinking like that for the musicians at that time period, and how this would be the perfect quintessential guitar for artists to use, like we have with this guitar. Anyways, for this week, it's body shapes and sizes, and you're not going to believe our next guest. There's one person in Kamloops that when I worked with for the very first time, I clearly remember it. I remember the infectious enthusiasm. I remember how the crowd reacted. And I remember coming away from the event so pumped, so excited, thinking, man, I just got to keep working with this person, and it's going to lead to great things. And it has. And my next guest is Joe Barry from Boogie the Bridge and the Run Club. Do you remember those first years? It was like 20 years ago?
It's 20 years
Something
ago.
like that?
Yeah.
And I remember it was like, who is this person up on stage screaming at everybody? And everybody's just responding. I felt almost like I was in a cult.
Oh, yes,
But
yes.
realized I wasn't.
Yes.
And it was all about something that was foreign to me, about running.
Yeah.
And health.
And movement, yeah.
And movement, exactly. So here we are 20 years later. What is your proudest accomplishment?
You know, that's an excellent question. Thank you. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you. It's very hard to sit still.
This is Jo Barry. She can't sit still. Yeah.
But I think just to keep it super simple, because, you know, our journeys have been so long and so detailed. But I think one of my heartfelt feelings around the progression of everything is when I'm just simply driving down the road in my little bug, and I see people running and walking all over town, and I'm like, oh yeah, they started at Run Club, and the friendships and the
Yes.
trips and the movement, and how, you know, they start somewhere and then it's become such a part of their life. Because like you, Mike, we live in Kamloops, we love, like Kamloops is our family, like literally.
You know, I have some pictures here. I'm going to just fast forward through some. But I found this one, and I thought,
Yeah.
this is probably one of the best pictures of Jo Barry I've ever seen.
I can't believe you got that photo. That's just wild.
And it really represents, to me,
Yeah.
what you're all about.
Yeah, that
So-
was right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I really enjoy is that you've done this Boogie the Bridge.
Yes.
Boogie the Bridge, I'm going to back up and show a couple pictures of that, is a race that's grown to be, what, 4,000 or 5,000 people?
About 3.
About
yeah.
3,000
And then
people.
participants. And
But they have the heart of 4,000 or 5,000
oh
people.
my goodness, that's the thing, right? It's so much more than a one-day running event or walking. Yeah.
As a sound engineer, I'm involved with a lot of events, a lot of different runs and that kind of a thing. One of the things that is fantastic about Boogie is just the energy level amongst the people.
Absolutely.
And it's a race that goes across the Blue Bridge,
Yes.
the Overlander Bridge. It's funny that we call it the Blue Bridge and the Red Bridge, but that's another story.
We do.
But they run across there. They go along Schubert Drive, and one of the things that that we do with it is we put music
Yes.
all the way all along the raceway, and our entire team gets involved with Boogie the Bridge
Absolutely.
from that aspect. But to me, there's a band playing in the park, and it's a very music-centric community thing.
So much so.
But then I look at pictures like this and I realize, wait a second, it's a run.
I mean, if you haven't been to Boogie, it's not your traditional running race at all. We'd never ever wanted it to be, you know. It's
I wouldn't call it a race.
yeah, it's you know, that we definitely have wonderful elite runners that come out that are, you know, super fast and so inclusive of everyone. But it truly is a community health initiative. And the Boogie Red represents love, passion, energy, and change right from the beginning, right? So I'm by trade a social worker. So this was sort of a project, a community health project that happened.
I had no idea that.
Yeah,
about you. Really?
right?
Okay, so
Yeah.
social worker. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and of course, like I loved seeing Daniel on your show today, because originally Boogie was, you know, married with community arts, and our very first Boogie we had Henry Small out, you guys of course,
Yeah.
and we also were very involved with community arts with Tricia Salmer, and did this art show about body image the night before with wine and cheese and the Symphony, and then the next day we did this run walk. So it evolved, you know, with that idea of community health and everything that makes us feel well and better. And it's just been the most divine appointment for me. You know, it's just like I still get emotional. I truly do.
My guitar factory used to be down on Lawrence Street.
Yes.
And my office looked out onto Lawrence Street, the window there, and all day long I could see people running. I'd be out there shoveling the snow.
Yes.
And Arjun Singh would
Yes.
come running. He was a big part of your run club
Yeah.
for a long time.
His story is a classic, beautiful story, because he was mandated to come out to do the training and report on it through the newspaper. You know, we're super grateful for our community sponsors like you guys, and our, you know, who are just keep that movement is change word out into the community, the larger audience. And Arjun was appointed to do that.
Yes.
And he had he didn't want to be there at all. Like honestly, he'll tell you the story himself that he didn't show up the first couple of days, like, because it was 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and he was like, no.
No. Yeah.
And that's why we have to get you there, Mike. And you know, it's such an amazing experience, because it's not what you have in your head. It's so much more than that. And now, of course, Arjun can't live. It's become part of his life and his lifestyle to be out moving. And there's so many stories like that. I could tell stories for hours.
Yes.
It's magic moments.
Another magic moment. This is one of your warm-ups.
Yes.
And the park comes alive. This doesn't really give us the justice to actually what happens.
That's a beautiful photo.
And it was just like so many people dancing, and you can't help but, as a sound engineer working your mixing board, but be sitting there, and it's not hard stuff.
No, it's super easy.
It's super easy.
It has to be with 3,000 people.
And the other thing is, it's you realize watching us that it's not just about getting geared up for a race.
That's it.
It's about having, like you say, mobility in your body. This is just absolutely fantastic. And so there's your run club car that you were just talking about. And
Rosie is her name.
I couldn't help but have my inflatable guitar, and I actually tied it to your car that year.
It's great. I can't wait to do that again.
I am so looking forward to live events. Boogie Bridge too brought together so many different groups. You were talking about the Symphony and Tricia Selmer with her art, but also the city of Kamloops came on board as a huge sponsor.
Yeah.
Before we moved into the park, we were downtown. We closed off from 3rd Avenue.
I love the downtown.
It was crazy, and we had speakers set up all the way down, and we had 2 different band stages, I think.
Yes.
The amount of people that would come out and be excited to be there was pretty fantastic. This is one of my favorite shots, actually, from Boogie the Bridge.
Oh, I love that.
Is that awesome?
Your dad.
My dad, he'd run the start-stop line, and I'd run the band stages.
Yes.
And it was just a lot of fun. But we have the virtual Boogie the Bridge going on.
Yes, we do. And, we're just, like I said, it's, Boogie's a lot more than a one-day event. It's a community, we just love keeping the community moving, and it's really about service above self and contribution. And we just want to keep everybody moving. Movement changed my life. It saved my life. And, that's a story in itself that many people know. But Boogie started from a very, very difficult time where I lost my mom to depression, and I just was experiencing grief for the first time in my life and starting to connect the dots between moving outdoors and it being a beautiful thing for our brain chemistry.
Yes.
So, it's always been, for me personally, running has been my go-to for my mental health. Physical health is amazing as well, but it's beautiful to see the stigma coming off mental health now. And just that whole process started through grief, through crisis, and realizing that as soon as you step out the door, many people have heard this story, but it really was the catalyst to where I started to see that I wanted to be a more loving, kind, compassionate person in my world and the world.
Yeah.
And realizing that if I could share getting people moving outdoors, whatever pace, it would change their life. And it really does. And it's a movement has changed, has always been emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically. So it's, Boogie, when you come out on Boogie Day, I think those people that have been out, they feel that energy. They feel the inclusivity and the love and the support, And of course I've been, said, oh, you're, woohoo, crazy lady, or little bit this, little bit that. But I will shout it to the top of my lungs and say, living a love-based life where we actually care about each other and look at each other in the eyes and have these amazing relationships is truly what life is about. And health is so much more than physical movement. It's how we really are in the world. And that's the feeling that you have on Boogie Day. And for people that are super scared to come out, they think, oh my gosh, it's a race, I'm going to be left behind.
It's not scary at all.
Not at all. And the music and the energy and you guys and, Tara on the mic and everyone. Everyone is the same kind of feeling.
You realize your neighbors are out there as well.
Yes.
Like there's so many people I know on Boogie Day that it's really exciting. And
Totally.
the kids and it's
kids.
Kids Boogie.
Tear, right?
Yeah.
Cry with that mini Boogie, all those little kids.
Boogie the Bridge, I think we can agree, is like Amazing. I'm so glad that you've done it and that we've been part of it. And just such a small part we've been for something that's such a big view. I think it's amazing. There's something else that you do.
Yes.
It's called the Run Club.
Yes.
Now this is your business.
Yes.
And the Run Club, my wife was involved with.
Yes.
She came out and she's not a runner, but she was
Monica,
really excited to. It wasn't about running. It was, like you say, about getting out there, movement,
Yeah.
and also meeting other people too.
Yeah.
So it's and she made some friends when she was out there that she still talks to.
Yes.
And,
Love the friendships.
Run Club. Tell me about Run Club. How many coaches have you got? How does this work?
So Run Club is the official training program for Boogie the Bridge,
Okay.
but we also do clinics all year long, and we have, I think, 18 amazing coaches and a big team that really contributes to, emotionally and physically, and it's a wonderful program to come out and experience.
Yeah.
We have power walkers, a 5K suite program, pretty much any pace that you're never in a group. Like you wouldn't come out, Mike, and when you come out,
yes,
you wouldn't come out and all of a sudden be running with people that have been running for 5 years, right? You're always in a group that's suited away from, all the groups are separate, especially right now. We just started live on Tuesday night for the first time in a year. It was incredible with all the COVID protocols, but it's a very non-competitive, inclusive group. It's the people that come out that make it absolutely, it's a high vibrational community. We do tons around emotional and mental health, and you've got to come.
I would like to come. And
I got to get it on camera.
I would like to come.
And everybody succeeds.
And
Everyone.
it's once a week, and then you...
Twice a week now. We've
Twice a
kind of
week?
shifted it up for people because we want them to have more support. And I have to tell you a funny story about the name of Run Club.
Okay.
So people...
I'm assuming it's like Fight Club.
It is.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When we first started this 20 years ago, we couldn't figure out a name for it. And we were wondering, what could we call it? And I was out running one day. And if you've seen the movie Fight Club, like that sounds really like, are you kidding me? But the underlying messages are all about emotional health and being a human being, right?
Yes, yeah.
That we have to control each other, and we're projecting all of our opinions on each other, and it's just brilliant, right? It was sort of the first mainstream movie where they really, went into a deep dive on human behavior and how that causes chaos and disease and all of this. So it was perfect. Like we actually had a soap for the first logo.
I remember that.
Yeah. And so it's it's a whole bunch of things, but as far as the sort of the conduit is, everyone I think dreams about being a runner for some reason. They kind of think, oh, that would be so cool. And so the conduit is to learn to run, or power walk is amazing too. But once you get into that whole way of life, right? It's a lifestyle. It's mental fitness is my jam, right?
Yes.
It's like, I feel amazing in my life. Like, touch wood. Of course, I'm going to die one day. It's going to happen. But in the meantime, by still like going down that rabbit hole, right? Like, how can I be as healthy and help others?
Yes.
I will talk people's ear off if they'll listen to me, just like you with music,
Yeah,
right?
that's
We
right,
can't stop it because it changed our lives. And there's so many tools in our toolkit that we can use. And we really do have a lot of control over our health. Like, of course things happen, but I think we have a lot more control than we think we do. And so that's what Run Club is. It's a whole bunch of like juicy life. We do trips. We've been to Vegas 11 times and done the Rock and Roll Marathon there. We do local trips. We really support other community events, 100%.
Yeah.
And everything that's going on with all the different running events. So it's community health in a nutshell, and I love it.
That's
I
fantastic.
still love it every moment, just like you. I feel really blessed, and it's been an incredible, divine journey for me.
I've got the invenerable. Is that a word?
It's a great word. You come up with some good words.
Jo Barry, Boogie the
you,
Bridge,
Mike.
Run Club. I'm so excited to have her here.
It's
And
wonderful to be here. Thank you, Kamloops, for all your support.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And coming up next, we got some amazing music. Your performance was amazing. I have to say that the violin, for me, is one of those instruments that has such a dynamic range, not just in volume and amplitude, but an amazing ability to have different timbres to the sound. And I noticed during that piece, you'd have like an almost a hoarse kind of a sound, a deep, very melodic kind of sound, and then just everything that you were doing with that was fantastic. Who's the composer of that?
Yeah, the composer of this piece of music is Niccolò Paganini, one of the greatest violinists of all times, and of course, amazing composer. He dreamed to compose an opera, of course, like any Italian composer, but he implemented the opera style in his violin works. And he was an amazing guitar player, by the way. He composed many guitar compositions, and this particular piece, the Cantabile, has a guitar accompaniment. So you can accompany the violin on guitar, and he also used a lot of guitar techniques on violin.
Yes,
like harmonics, for example, a lot of double stops, chordial positions, which are very common for guitar. And he started on mandolin. Mandolin was his first instrument.
Oh, was it really?
He was 4, and that's how they would start musicians in early age. The mandolin would be the first instrument you can pick, and then you switch to guitar or violin and other instruments.
So what years would have this been that he was a composer?
He was active in the first quarter of the first 40 years of the 19th century.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So that was right in a period of time, the Romantic era of guitar, and it was right when we went from Baroque style
exactly.
to actually 6 strings,
Yes.
and there was a lot of excitement going on, especially in that area of Europe. So I can see that guitar was the new innovative instrument. So he was a very innovative composer.
Absolutely. Yes.
so-
Yes, he traveled his violin and his guitar. He made a lot of concert tours across Europe. He was the first touring violinist, a concert touring violinist in the world.
He was the first rock star.
Yes, exactly. He was a star.
Awesome. So tell me about you. You're in Kamloops. You play in the Symphony. What's your
Yes.
role with the Symphony?
My position with the Symphony is a concert master, and I also teach violin and viola and chamber music with the Kamloops Symphony Music School since 2005, so 16 years
Okay.
already.
Yeah, that's awesome. And where did you move to Kamloops from anywhere?
I moved from Bulgaria,
Bulgaria, okay.
Europe, and I, of course, traveled through many countries as a musician. Before moving to Canada, I chose Canada specifically because I think that's the greatest place one can be.
I like it here.
Yeah, I like it.
Fantastic. Well, we're glad to have you here. So you're an instructor at the Kamloops Symphony School of Music, and you teach from beginners to pros, obviously.
Yes, yes, and I have a lot of adult students as well. Actually, about 1/3 of my students are adults.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're not just classical. You also play
No.
bluegrass.
Yeah, I play bluegrass, country fiddle style, and whatever music. The music is great. There's all kinds of music. I actually played in a rock band when I was a student. I played bass guitar in a rock band.
A bass guitar.
I'm not considering myself a bass guitar player at the moment.
Well, bass
Don't
you just
try
go
me.
bom 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 bom, right?
I can play like.
There you go.
Yeah.
That skill is equal to my skill on violin.
Okay.
Speaking of which, so with COVID, I decided that I would take on a new instrument. And I started to get inspired about the violin. You know, I've got, my dad and I, with our family's music store, we've got actually a very large collection of violins. We don't have them out yet, but we will eventually.
We should. Yeah.
And we want to get more into it. So I thought this is going to be my COVID instrument, because I'm going to learn how to play violin. My wife calls it the divorce instrument.
Yeah.
Wait till you hear me play. I'll play you my best piece. But I was wondering, would you give me a couple tips, knowing that I know nothing about violin playing? I have my violin right here. So this is my violin.
Okay.
It's a Stainer style.
Yeah.
And I like it because it looks like a grenade's blown up inside of it. And this one also appealed to me because it's got the geared tuning machine heads. So I'll just play my song that my nieces love, and you can critique me.
Wow.
That's
in tune.
all summer.
Yes, it is great.
So I don't know how to hold my bow,
Yes.
and I feel like
I see that.
I was watching you do your staccato kind of chatter
Yeah.
up, and playing like the micro notes, I guess,
Yeah.
on that piece that you played, and I thought that's how I normally play. So what do you think I can do to improve, or can I have something that I can
you
practice?
you can do many things, but don't do it at once, right? One thing at a time, because
That's
it can
right.
be overwhelming. So the first thing to do, of course, how you hold the instrument. I would recommend, maybe for a beginner, using a shoulder rest, which I have not been using shoulder rest for about 30 years in my life.
Okay.
But with the COVID, having a mask, actually, I realized the mask is very slippery, and it's easier to hold the violin with the shoulder rest. So that's one thing, which actually gives you a chance to separate the wrist from the body of the violin. Right now,
Yeah.
you have a large hand, which is great.
Sure I am.
This
Yeah.
is how people used to play for about 400 years, like this.
Yeah.
But the old violin, like 15th, 16th, 17th century instruments, they didn't have such a long neck. The neck was much shorter.
Oh,
And
okay.
if you hold the violin here, you can reach to the bottom of the fingerboard. Now with the longer fingerboard, which was made at the end of the 18th century after the French Revolution, the extension of the neck, so all the old instruments, including this one, were basically beheaded. So the neck was made longer. So
Yeah.
they have new necks. This is not the original neck. Everything else is the original, but not the neck. And the fingerboard, of
interesting.
course,
Yeah.
much longer. The fingerboard was that short.
Higher tension, string
Yes,
tension too.
and
yeah.
higher bridge and so forth. So this is how people used to play in the past, right? The hand was here.
Yeah.
But with the extended neck and fingerboard, the French violinists after the French Revolution, they established new techniques called shifting technique. And the
Yes.
hand is not close to the body anymore.
So you got to be able to hold that up somehow.
To hold the violin like this. This is why the shoulder rest is beneficial, but you
Yeah.
can hold definitely without shoulder rest. You can use, this is so-called cradle cushion.
Okay. Yeah.
It's right on your collarbone.
Yes.
And you can play like that as well. You can hold the violin high. It gives you a better grip on the collarbone. That's another little tool. If you want to continue playing without shoulder rest, that's fine, but you can use this kind of cradle cushion.
Sure. Yeah.
And it helps you to have a better grip. The other thing, you can consider using a chin rest, which goes over top
All the way
bridge,
across the bridge,
across
yes.
the bridge. That protects not the bridge, but the tailpiece from pressure, because that's where the chin pressure is quite high. And you're
yeah.
supposed to apply pressure over the tailpiece. That's not good for the instrument, for the tuning.
It sounds like you and I could have conversations about this
Yes.
for long, long stories about
I'm
this.
not even talking about the bow at all.
I haven't even
but-
talked about the boat. What I need to do is I need to come and sign up for some lessons at the Symphony. You're going to perform another piece for us?
Sure.
And so what's this next piece that you're going to be playing us?
Well, the next piece, I just want to demonstrate how the classical music, people think the classical music is so different, and some people don't listen to classical music at all. They just listen to pop music, to folk music, to any other style. But there's so much connected. I just want to demonstrate how much the classical music and the other styles of music are connected, and it's all one. For a musician who travels around the world, music is music. You cannot divide the music to bad and good.
Sure.
So just to play one piece, a very simple piece you can find in Suzuki Book 1,
Yeah.
the so-called A Happy Farmer, the Happy Farmer piece, very appropriate for our area.
Yes.
It's very simple, was composed by Robert Schumann, a German romantic composer. And this tune was used in early 19th century by an American songwriter. It was turned into a country song. And people like it so much that they started playing this piece as a country fiddle tune and a bluegrass tune. So I said, that's a cool piece. I can demonstrate the connection between classical and bluegrass country fiddle by playing the classical tune first and then playing that Red Wing song as a variation to the Schumann Happy Farmer piece.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to hear this. And
Okay.
thank you very much for being on our show.
You're welcome.
And I look forward to learning more about the violin. So let's hear the Happy Farmer
Happy
slash Red Wing.
Farmer slash Red Wing.
All right.
Yes.